Hello, everyone. We are back. I'm back with my bestie, animal whisperer Meg Shea.
Hi,
Just if
everyone.
you guys haven't seen our interview on YouTube, you can check it out on my page. It's just, I mean, I don't. We've covered so many topics in that session, and I know from the feedback I've gotten, from the feedback you've gotten, it's incredibly healing for people and really understanding your gift in communicating with animals, and also the messages that they have for us, their behavior,
Mhm.
um, really how to understand them and love them and support them in a better way, and what they're here to show us and their purpose. And it's just an amazing call or conversation, and just go check it out. But today we're kind of switching gears a little bit.
Woohoo.
We're switching gears because as we were talking about this before I press record, um, we're both feeling really called to have this conversation about energy and about being a healer in the world, while also navigating the world and um, different frequencies, people who are open, people who aren't open, owning our power in all of that. And this has been a journey for both of us in finding our way. And one thing that I think this call really like comes together is just um, our recognition that in order for people to really feel safe to be visible in their gift, um, they also need a safe space to be seen and to
Mm.
be heard, and to say, hey, like, these are my challenges that I deal with as a healer, and these are the places where I second guess myself, and these are the moments that I feel out of alignment with who I am, or I'm struggling, or I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so we just kind of wanted to bring real life talk here into this conversation and invite you in, because um, that's what this is about. It's, you know, I think it's easy to look at um, people in their gift, like you, Meg. When you're in your zone, it's mind blowing. It's
Mm.
phenomenal just watching you work, and the messages that you channel that are so detailed, so filled with love, so connecting on every level, making so much sense, validating people's experiences. You have such an amazing gift. And I think
Thank you.
you're welcome. And I think it's easy sometimes to be on the outside looking in and saying, oh wow, like, in order to be a healer, in order to have that gift, you must just have everything figured out, and you must just like be this energy being that is so bright and magnificent. And when really it's like, we're human and we have this gift that is really big, and sometimes it's hard to navigate both, like living in the world
Agreed.
and holding the gift at the same time. So
Agreed. It
I
can
want
be
to,
really hard for people to see past that external perception, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And so I'll talk about mine in a little bit, but I want to know, for you, like, what has been a challenge when you're working with people who, let's say, aren't so open to what you do? Because I think there's even a separation there. Are everybody in the world, for the most part, is like now open to the idea of Reiki and like hands-on
Right.
healing. It's become integrated into some Western medicine practices, but communicating with animals, it requires, like, I think, another level of faith, because we don't talk to animals and we don't communicate with them. We communicate with people, and I feel like that is a safe space, but I think there's so much unknown and um, misunderstanding and a lot of fear around this work that you're doing, which is also why it needs to be done, because you're giving a voice to um, beautiful beings that don't have one, and helping to bridge the gap for all of us.
Right.
But what have been some of your challenges in just owning your gift, but dealing with some of the people who, let's say, aren't as open? And we just love them for where they're at, because we all have to find our own pace. But
totally. And that's an interesting experience in itself, because in some way you're recognizing that there's a lack of energy, or as I like to call it, it's like a screen door. And I imagine a screen door in front of someone's house, and people either have that screen door year round and they let the breeze flow through. Some people leave that door wide open and they say, come in anytime you want.
yeah,
And it's very welcoming, and it's different energy to work with. But even though it's a screen door, they're still filtering what they're allowing you to give them. And they're still filtering what you're allowed to receive from them. And so when that door is there, you have to energetically consider that there is a little bit of a boundary. They're setting a boundary because maybe perhaps not comfortable, or maybe perhaps because it's something scary to hear, and there might be fear there. Or maybe it's a conversation they've just never had before, and it's their first time experiencing an animal whispering session. And some people are resistant to that healing and to that energy because it can be scary. Trust me, being a healer is not as easy as it seems. I think the more enlightened you are, actually, the harder it is. The goal would be to get everyone to open that screen door so we can all kind of live in this summer's day forever. Because if we were all having this energetic relationship all of the time, it would be easier. I think everyone in the world would just have a better time. But so sometimes you will notice that screen door when it's closed. It does require more work on my part to exchange with the animal. I have to do more digging, because if the person that I'm working with, who's in partnership with this animal, it's closed off and that screen door is closed, my job becomes harder. I have to do, like I said, more digging, more connecting to the animal on a deeper level. And even then, sometimes it causes the animal to shut down. And when the animal shuts down, the information will stop filtering through that screen door, because there's that boundary. And so the animal steps back and will look at me and say, this isn't okay. We're going into kind of either uncharted territory, or it's my job to be quiet now because maybe my owner's just not ready. And so, there is that energetic sometimes difficulty, but it's kind of interesting because I think everyone receives something different. And I think that's also what's really incredible about each, whispering session, is that everyone gets something different, the animal and the human. And I always tell every client, it's okay if you have that screen door there. We're not perfect humans. We're not going to all experience all of this amazing stuff all the time. But what you can go into it with is an open heart and an open mind. And even if you only open that screen door a little bit, or like I said, even if you leave it closed, it's okay, because I tell everyone, whatever is meant for you to receive is here for you today. You just have to accept it.
And I think that's such an incredible way of approaching and serving from a place of love, is recognizing that we are all perfectly where we are, and there are boundaries in place that we have to respect on that level, to really honor them for what they're actually able to receive in that moment.
And for me too, sometimes it's, and this is 100% honesty, sometimes it really comes down to me respecting the animal, because at the end of the day, I am serving the animal. Yes, I'm serving the owner also, but with all due respect, it's the animal's voice. It's the animal's turn to speak. And if they're uncomfortable, it's my job to let someone know that. It's my job to go to that place so they can understand my animal is suffering, or my animal is having an emotional difficulty with this conversation, and why. It should make them curious. I want them for each person to receive a different message. And that's the beauty of a lot of it, is that, there is no script. It's different with every animal and every person that you talk to. And I know you love dancing, and so I'll say this, but it's like a dance. You never know what kind of dance you're going to be entering into. You could be doing the tango 1 minute and the animal's talking 100 miles an hour, just like you would be moving your feet. And another minute you might be doing ballet, and they need that really slow, steady approach, you know. And the other interesting thing comes to mind is kind of just like how we connect with people. If you walk into a room, you immediately feel energy from people.
Absolutely.
Animals can feel that. And so sometimes we either rise up to that or shut down to that. But either way, whatever energy we are recognizing, it's my job to work with whatever's on the table because it's relevant, it's important, and more importantly, it's honest. And one thing I know is animals do not lie.
Yeah.
And that's just their reality and the truth of it all. And that's what I'm here to share, is the truth of what's on their mind. So
yeah. And that's really beautiful, Meg. And I know that's also why you feel so called to and so close to animals, because of that reason. Like, they don't lie. They show up like openly and honestly. And it's hard when you have a gift like this and you're so tapped into what's real. And then you live in a world where we all are being taught to uphold an image that we think is either more lovable or makes people more comfortable around us. And that's just,
we conform.
Yes. Conform. Absolutely.
Yes. And I think, to add to your piece about my love for animals, is there's safety in that and there's trust in that, because it's what we call unconditional love. And that's part of the reason I am so drawn to animals, because when you have the energy of unconditional love, that's where telepathy comes into play, because the energy is so open and so free and so unconditional that exchange and that conversation becomes seamless, and it goes back and forth. The second we have conditions, that screen door closes, and the energy of the information that comes through can be limited, and it can be challenging, but it's for a purpose. It's always for a purpose.
Absolutely. And it just made me think of too, why these conversations are so sacred to me and so important in these relationships.
I have the chills right now. I know, this is insane.
Because it's like, this is what this flow is like.
Yes.
There's no, okay, like, so now I'm going to talk about this and we're going to go into here, and there's no strategy. It's like, there is a flow, there's a trust, there's a deep love and connection. And that's what I want to, with these conversations, encourage people to find in their community, to create this if you don't have it, because
it can change your life.
Yeah. And we need this.
Yes.
We need to open, and we need to put down our armor and literally like take the screen door down.
Yes. Because it is the most sacred space that you will find, is when you open to that, to that piece, for sure. And for me, I imagine kind of, it's like a meditation for me, is what happens is you get to this really translucent and happy place.
Yeah.
And if you imagine walking a dog or standing beside a horse or standing in front of a barn where you can view all the cows in the pasture, it's in those moments where there's no pressure, there's no defenses, there's no nothing. It's, you're going on a walk with your dog down the street. That's the beauty of the session, is they're taking you on their journey. So allow that to happen, allow that energy to open and to flow. Let them take you. I love to tell people, let the animals lead. There's so much knowledge there. And that's the piece that we need to tap into, because it's just bliss. It's absolute bliss.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more too about just how we can like begin connecting even more with them? Like what we can start noticing and paying attention to that can open up that connection?
Yeah. Oh, a huge one for me is presence. And you talk about this all of the time.
Yeah.
But presence, fully being there, not having an agenda, not having a to-do list. It's like getting rid of all the external stuff that we sometimes carry around. And a lot of us, I envision us, we all carry around this little North Face backpack, and it's ideally taskless. What we have to do when we get home for dinner, we still have to work out. It's like, here's my backpack, and it's filled with tons of stuff. Sometimes we have to take that backpack off and put it down beside us and acknowledge that it's there, but allow ourselves to really fully be present. And when you're fully present, one of my favorite things that I do with my horse Rugby, who is my heart and soul, and I say that he has wings because he is a true angel. I get so teary when I talk about him too. He's very special. And often I will take moments with him to take him out of his stall. I actually went last night, so this is relevant and amazing. And I take him into the indoor ring, 8 o'clock at night. It's dark. Look at the sunbeams
I was
coming
just going
through
to
right
say,
now. I'm sorry. This is just so crazy. I love it.
rugby's part of the conversation now.
It's not so bright. The universe wants to enter. Can you tell?
Yeah. And you said angel, and he was like, hey, coming in.
So, and I take him out of his stall, and we do have somewhat of a routine, but the routine is not a task. The routine is, let's just be together and see what happens and see what comes up. And that's sometimes when you gain the most wisdom. That's why, like, when you're driving in your car, people get kind of dazed and you think of all these things. It's because you're in a free space. You're not actually, yes, you're driving a car, but you're very open. And so I take him out of his stall. We're walking around the indoor ring, and his eyes start to get what I call ocean eyes, which is like this glassed over look, and his head will lower, and I start to embody the same thing. He takes a deep breath. I take a deep breath. It's almost like syncing up, and your heartbeat literally starts beating, the same synchronicity as each other. And you find yourself in this moment, you're just vibrating together. And it's an incredible experience. And so sometimes being fully present and doing nothing, you're doing so much because you're just saying, I'm here just to experience you and breathe you in and take in your energy. And that's the beautiful part about animals, is they allow you that freedom to just be. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to try. Just standing next to them, putting your hands on them, sitting with them. You don't even have to speak if you're not comfortable. It's just taking in their essence and allowing them to heal you. I feel all animals are healers. And so sometimes it's just allowing yourself to absorb,
to receive,
and to receive whatever they're presenting. If it's okay, I'll add a little more, but I'll never forget the day that I walked into Rugby's stall, and he has this big gray tear marks, and I could swear they looked like old tear marks from a previous lifetime. And he has this energy that he embodies, that sometimes he brings up for you what needs to be released. And he's the first one to call me out if I'm not fully present. So what he does generally is, the emotion may rise, I may cry, I may have a release. Then I start going to this extreme place of love where I'm like, thank you, you're amazing, I love you. And then you become fully present because you've released whatever you might not even recognize you're holding on to. So sometimes just allowing them to tap into those special nooks and crannies, as I like to call them, because sometimes we stuff things and we don't even know it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that you said that brought tears to my eyes was just allow yourself to just experience them. And I feel like that's just such a sacred practice that we can bring into our lives and in our relationships. The animals help us do that in a way that we feel safe and comfortable, but then to actually start practicing that in our daily lives with people, of like, I don't need to do anything for you in order to receive love. I don't need to, like, we don't even need to have a conversation. Like, stuff doesn't need to be happening in order for us to receive so much from each other.
Right. And I do believe animals are always there. They're always in that sacred place, and you have the opportunity to rise and meet them there. And when they're not there, I'd start getting really curious where you are, because oftentimes they might reflect to you, hey, you're really closed off, so let's not even go there today. So I would call the curiosity to that and say, what really is this? Is it the dog or is it me?
Interesting.
And their job is to shed light to us. I do believe they're beyond intelligence. So I believe they have the gift to teach us and to help us grow and to help us heal and to be better humans.
Yeah. They model it for us, for sure.
Absolutely.
So you said presence and just being with them and really looking at their behavior and how they're showing up, because it's very much a mirror it can be a mirror for us.
It can be, for sure.
What we're experiencing. And I think that's just an important part, because we can get caught up in just the external in our lives. we can get caught up with what someone else is doing to us or their behavior or what they said, and spin in that rather than they're mirroring something for me because I've been activated and I've been triggered. So
Right.
instead of me going into the story of what this is all about, I can take that information and go, what is really going on within me that needs some love and healing and compassion and space.
Right. And it's exceptional to consider that they are perhaps the most intuitive and extreme version of a therapist that you could find.
Yeah.
So if there's any chance to be around an animal, I would highly recommend, and I've been doing it for so many years now, but the more you are around animals, the more you will transform.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. You just have to put yourself there. You have to put yourself in their presence. Get really curious. If you're on a drive through Montana and you see, a pack of coyotes, a pack of wolves, get curious why they're showing up for you.
Yeah.
If you always see hawks flying across while you're driving, get curious. They show up often as messengers, healers, thinkers. They're huge investors in us. That's why they're so loyal to us. And so they're calling us to be just as loyal to ourselves. So get curious.
And I love that because I've definitely seen in my own life, I've just started to pay more attention to all of nature, but especially the animals, and just thanking them every time they cross my path of like, I know you're giving me a gift, whether I'm conscious of it or not. And even if it's just your presence and your beauty, like, thank you. But it also reminds me, I don't know, did I ever tell you the story of how I found my spirit animal?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. I don't know why I want to have this conversation, but it's actually a really cool story. So, when I was in New York, I was at Omega doing, my past life regression training with Brian Weiss, and, they had many different healing modalities that you could get there. And one of them was a shamanic healing. And I was like, yes, which I know you do a lot.
Yes.
So I was like, yes, I want that. I've never had it. I've never had the experience, but I've always felt called to Native American culture. And I'm sure there's past lives there. You and I have kind of talked about that. And she like put me into this trance, and it was very, very similar to like a regression, like a hypnotic state.
Yes.
Where you're very aware, but you're tuned in and dialed into a deeper part of yourself.
Yeah.
And in the regression, she asked, or in the trance, she asked if I wanted to meet my spirit animal. And I said, yes, absolutely. And so it was fascinating because it was actually like a shape-shifting animal.
That's amazing.
It's part white tiger and part wolf, which is also amazing because I was told I have a spirit guide who is also a shapeshifter, part Egyptian, part Native American. So the two go, and I didn't even realize that and put that together until afterwards. And I was just, wow, this is really cool. I'm open to receive. I don't think I'm going to cross any white tigers on my path here in upstate New York, but I'm just open to receive whatever you want to offer me. And on my drive home on the highway, I'm driving and I see a wolf just sitting by the side of the highway.
Saying like, I see you.
Looking at me. Just like a dog, just like, hi.
I love it.
And it was this incredible experience where I kind of wanted to stop the car and take a picture. You want to like capture it. And I was like, no, whoa. I received that. Thank you. And it just, to this day, I always call on her and her energy. And it's been such an amazing relationship in what she brings forth for me, because I feel like she brings other animals forward as messengers, and she's kind of like the gatekeeper, but I feel her close, and it's a beautiful relationship. So I didn't know if you had any experiences with like spirit animals or
yes. And just to add to what you were saying too is just for everyone's general references, we call them spirit animals, but it's another term I think too that like synchronizes with a guardian, a god, or an angel, a guardian angel.
Yeah.
Just in a different form. So how odd is it that it's shape-shifting, right?
Yeah.
It's appearing in a different form. And I think sometimes when they are in a different form, we tend to pay attention. We tend to get curious why they're showing up. I've had a few experiences myself, but one of my favorites, I actually had like a past life regression experience also doing shamanic healing. And my experience was I was approached by 3 brother male coyotes. And when I was greeted by them, they were circling around me. Now, the interesting part is my first gut instinct, the feeling, the emotion I had, I was terrified.
Yeah.
Because I've never actually been in nature and come in contact with a coyote. And I think it's indicative of their actual energy. If you were walking through the woods or in the forest, you might get goosebumps. You might stop in your tracks and be like, wow, I'm really in the wild with a wild animal.
Yeah.
So immediately I felt kind of, is this scary? Is this really scary? And I got down on my knees during the spiritual experience.
Like physically got down on your knees?
Okay. Not actually in real life, but
in your mind. Yeah. Okay.
And I did that, and all 3 coyotes lined up and came to me and offered me a different gift. And so one touched my heart with his paw, and the other one just licked my hand, and the other one came into kind of my solar plexus area. And we kind of bonded through that experience. And so they became, because they were my representative, so to speak, and because they came to me, they now are a specific animal or a guide or an angel that I can call on if I need more clarity, or if I need to ask a specific question. I can say, can you seek this out for me? Can you find this information to get more depth and clarity for me? And kind of return that back. So you have a deeper connection on a spiritual level. And to me, that's an important piece to this type of work is energetically, you have to be supported, kind of what you were saying at the beginning, internally for yourself, emotionally and mentally. And to do that and to be a healer and feel really confident and powerful, you also have to have the support spiritually and physically. So you have to physically surround yourself with a women's group, a sisterhood, something that can really help you talk about things like this and really get a good understanding of what you're putting out onto the world and what you're receiving. And I'll just throw this out for anyone that's interested too. The more experiences you have, you know, if you see a cricket every day for 7 days and it disappears, check out the website wildgratitude.com. It is one of my go-tos.
I'll post it below.
On a daily basis. It's absolutely incredible. And there's an animal directory, and whichever animal you are receiving information from, or if they happen to cross your path and you think it's unusual, or if you just think it's not, check it out, because you'll start to really understand that when animals cross your path, whether through a spiritual experience or here in reality, as we like to call it. There always is a purpose and a meaning behind that and a significance. And this particular website really breaks down the significance of some really interesting animals. So check it out. It's really awesome. It's one of my favorites.
That's great. Thank you for that. I forget the one that I use, but that one sounds familiar. So I probably dipped in my Google searches to that one. But I think it also speaks to whatever the sign, whether it's an animal or something else, if you're feeling a pull to it, if you're feeling emotionally connected to it, if you're even asking the question, I wonder if that's for me, investigate that. Because if you're not noticing it, then it's not like, it's probably either you're just not open to it at that time, or you can tell the difference. Which I think sometimes I hear people get really confused. I think it's a sign, but I'm not sure. And how do I tell? And, you know, there is an energy and an impulse and an emotional response that you have when you receive something like that. So pay attention to that as well.
I think oddly enough too, this happens too. I've noticed a lot of people express that type of, I'm not getting signs when we have a loved one or a friend or someone close to us that transitions.
Can we talk about that?
Yes. We feel this stagnant energy of, I'm not getting a message. I was so close to them and I'm not seeing any signs or anything. And I'm a firm believer that it's all about timing.
Yeah.
That's what I tell all my clients. You're meant to receive what you're meant to receive when you're meant to receive it.
Yeah.
And the other big piece to that is you still could be getting signs, but what may happen is they may have to go through a learning curve before they can come back to you and clearly give you distinctive, specific, and definite signs so that you can understand and recognize that it is in fact them. So I like to call it the pause. So I imagine, in my eyes, the universe, I believe that we all go somewhere. I believe we all go to a happy place. I don't have names for it. I just do believe that everybody goes somewhere special, animals and humans. And I do believe we also can get stuck if there's messages we need to share or bring back to others. But when you have that absence and when you have that silence and you feel you're not receiving something, it doesn't mean you're actually not, and it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. They just actually have a place that they need to figure out and learn their process of what they're best at. So it could be visual, it could be sound. They have to learn something to deliver a specific message back to you. And so it's almost like their learning process or their learning curve. So don't get discouraged. It just might also be coming to you in a way that you're not quite expecting.
Yeah, I love that. My teacher Amy used to say, "There's like school. Like we have the Earth is our school. They have school. Like there's for some of them, they need to have that transition piece." So I'm so glad that you shared that. And also, I would say that grief blocks our ability to. Grief is just a heavy, dense, thick emotion, and it blocks our ability to receive. And in our world, especially Western culture, Western society, we're not taught how to grieve.
We're taught to shut off.
We're taught to shut off, shut down, opt out.
Yes.
And it comes up later in other situations, in other moments. It manifests on a physical level. We're not actually taught or encouraged to grieve. And it was really crazy because I was watching, I don't even remember what the show was, but this woman was crying and her friend was like, stop it. And it broke my heart because I think of the times that I have said that, or someone has said that to me, before I really came into this work and understood just the process of feeling and how important it is to feel. And I just shared a story recently about a very vulnerable experience that I didn't even feel valuable, and I didn't think it was valid enough to even talk about because it was so long ago, and it's back there. But the bottom line is there was a part of me that needed to. That part of me, that 15-year-old girl, needed to be seen. She needed to be heard. She needed to express her grief and her pain and her story.
Yes.
Because she didn't have a platform to do that. And so, especially in transitions, we have to honor the grief process, and we can't give it a timeline. We can't. I think sometimes it takes even longer because we're not fully being present with it. We're just opening it up enough to then go, oh, okay, that's too much. Shut it off.
Yes.
And to just have the courage to just be there with it as it comes up, because that's going to be the thing that allows you to receive on the back end.
Yes.
And it's like on an energetic level, you're so supported during that process. It's like I just, whenever someone's loved one is dying,
line up.
It's like everybody's coming in. There's a circle being created. Like there's so much support around.
Yes, and to that, you hit a note for me. You were talking about a child, a little girl.
Yeah.
For me, think of even in the now. How we encourage children, stop crying. If you stop crying, we can finish this. Or it's also hindering the process of, we need to be emotionally and mentally setting them up to actually feel the feels of what they're feeling and to be comfortable there, because it doesn't mean that they are emotionally or mentally going to be mixed up when they grow up. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's giving them the opportunity and allowing them and teaching them to feel comfortable to discover what it is that's coming up for you.
Right.
And why are you sad? And where is this emotion coming from?
Right.
But when we shut that off, we hinder the growth there, and that can affect, growth and development later on. Same thing with animals. If they're scurrying around and they seem like they have a lot of anxiety, and we just push off, shut down, it's all those wires eventually stop connecting and stop working. So the other piece for me that's really interesting, and I can encourage everyone to do, is never be afraid to go back. Never be afraid to go back to your childhood. And when I say go back, I mean really discover, open yourself up to having a shamanic journey, having an experience with a past life regression. Go there, do it. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, the depths of my soul, in the sense that there is so much discovery and so much wisdom. Talk about what happened in your childhood. Talk about what happened to you in high school if you were bullied. Go there. It makes you a better person. It heals parts of you that, energy. I envision the human body, and we have all this energy flowing through us. You can think of it in colors. You can think of it in segments. I often think energy travels in chunks, like puzzle pieces, right? And so if we have all these puzzle pieces all over our body, and eventually the puzzle is done, it's complete, it's filled up, we have no more room to fit any more puzzle pieces, but we still try anyway, and we get all mixed up and it doesn't work. So when we discover and when we can go back, we can release puzzle pieces, we can release grief that we've been carrying, we can release emotional and mental instability that we've carried for too long, and it's manifested into illness, sickness, health and medical issues.
Because it has to go somewhere on an energetic level. You can't just go through a traumatic experience or have something that's really painful, digest it, stick it in your body somewhere, and never deal with it again and be unaffected by it.
Yes, and everyone has a storage center. It could be your knees. It could be your lower back. It could be your ovaries. Everybody puts it somewhere. And the goal with going back to your childhood and exploring things that have happened in your life, trauma, grief, anything, is when we can remove that. We now have room for more of what we do want, for abundance, for happiness, for growth, for expansion, for unconditional love. And that's honestly, I think, the goal for everyone. We all want unconditional love, but we resist it. So isn't that interesting? So if we can open that screen door, get rid of some of our old stuff, we now have this room and this space to experience life on a very different level.
To receive so much more.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and thank you for saying that, because I know the fear is often, what am I going to find if I go back there? Like, I don't want to relive it, because I don't want to get lost in it. I want to forget it. I want to pretend it never happened. And the bottom line is, it did. And when you actually just go there, you, first of all, take away the fear of it's like monster in a closet. Like when you actually look in the closet and see it, you're like, oh, wow, there's actually nothing there. Or it's not that scary. But I would also say you have an opportunity to reprogram what it means for you.
Agreed.
To actually say, you know what? Now from my perspective, I see this differently. Or now from my level of awareness, I see how that was actually a gift moment for me. Yes. That was a game-changing moment. So then you change the energy of it, which clears it out, and
changes your frequency.
Changes your frequency
into the world. Yeah,
exactly. And so you start to magnetize healthier relationships, more opportunities, like you were saying, because you aren't operating from this place of fear and holding back and isolating. You have moved through that. You've received the gift. And so now you're able to receive so much more, because you're not holding the weight of that experience. And we don't realize how those moments, and I think our ego can easily invalidate them, of saying, well, that's not a big deal, or that wasn't a significant enough moment. But it doesn't matter. To a child, every moment is significant. because you think about it, you're coming into this world and you're like trying to figure it out, and you have all these adults that you have to trust and have to depend on and for survival.
Yes.
And so you're just navigating the world, and then when someone tells you to stop being so loud, or that you're not smart enough, or and it can be a little conversation, it could be a big event, but there's something in there that then creates a program, that then creates a belief system that you start operating your life by. And so when you go back and you clear that program, you operate your life differently.
Yes. And to add to that, on an even deeper level, my horse Rugby taught me one of the most profound gifts that I have ever received. And it was that emotions are like a cloud. And this visual has stuck with me forever. So I hope that it works for everyone listening and watching. Yeah. Emotions are past, trauma, grief, all of it. It's a cloud. And he taught me, allow that cloud to move through you. Let it keep going on its path, but feel it as it passes through you. Don't ignore it. Don't stuff it. Don't try to push it to another side or above or around you. Don't let it just float there. Let it come through and pass through you, because guess what? When it gets to the other side, it will pass. Yeah. And I loved that, because there's so much brilliance in allowing it to come, allowing yourself to receive it and feel it, and then let it drift. Let it go. Yeah. Let it be that cloud. Let it just go back to its journey. It might recycle back around. Yeah. You might experience the same cloud more than once.
And that's okay.
Taking it in. And it is okay. It is okay.
Yeah. Because there's layers to our healing, which I feel like our healing is just an unraveling of the stories and the image of who we think we are, and what we think the world is, and what we think each other are, and returning to that unconditional love, because that is the core of who we are. That's what we come in as children, these unconditionally loving beings. And then we're conditioned, and then all these conditions are thrown on us. And so our spiritual journey and our healing journey is really getting back to that core, back to that truth. And we have these beautiful beings like animals, like our spirit guides, like our angels, to reflect that unconditional love to us all the time, to remind us this is who you are. This is who you are. You are so loved. Yeah.
It's an incredible idea to consider. I do feel that we all know who we really are when we're children. And I say that because had I pushed away what I knew as a child, I knew about death long before I even knew what that involved or what it entailed or how much depth really came with that. One of the things I was afraid of the most was death and dying and what was going to happen to me and what that whole process was about. Well, animals and helping them transition and helping their owners allow the understanding of that process taught me to learn to receive that better, and taught me to now help people with that same thing that I struggled with. And so childhood is really where I think we all know. And if so many people say, well, children are so open, their energy is so good. It is. And that's the thing, because they are so open, and because they don't have all of this fog, and they don't have all these puzzle pieces stuck that they're refusing to acknowledge. They are who they are. We know who we are then. And I think sometimes we get taught to push that piece aside or not tap into that. And I knew very young that I was connected to animals. And
can you talk a little bit about that? Like the first experience that you remember?
Sure. So I did have a lot of paranormal experiences that tied into that, because I think that's where it starts to open you to the spiritual world and to the spiritual side of things. And my first experience actually was one of the first dogs I had. Her name was Joey, and she was named Joey because I was obsessed with the show Dawson's Creek, the character Joey. Yes, that's why I named her that. But she was a rescue. And at that time, my mother got this dog as a rescue from a pound. She was going to be put down that day. So how interesting. And my mother and her best friend saved her. And I was being bullied terribly in high school and going through a really difficult time, feeling like I fit in anywhere. I just was very different.
Yeah.
So insert Joey here.
Yeah.
And it was my first experience with understanding that there is a communication that happens, because she started having strange behaviors. She would pee in random places during the house. And And I walked by her one day. Now, I don't remember my age at the time. I'd probably have to ask my mother for some memories on that. But when I walked past her to walk out the back door, I caught her eye. And the eyes are one of the biggest ways that I connect with animals. And her eye looked very strange to me. And at the time, as a child, I couldn't pinpoint. I just said, Mom, she's not right. She's sick. Something's wrong with her. She's going to pass. And my mother's like, what?
Yeah.
And so the truth of the story unfolds that she was, in fact, very sick. And she ended up passing away. But it was in that moment that I detected the energy, the frequency, that something was not right. Something was wrong. And so one of the gifts, the biggest gifts that I have that has unfolded because of that is I do have the innate ability to be able to speak with the animal and find out exactly what their health and medical issues are.
Yeah.
And that's a fascinating thing. But it opened up this whole can of worms from that one experience in my childhood. And it was pivotal because look at where I am now. I mean, it's incredible to really think about that and to go back.
And the ability to just, that you have now because you trusted it and you developed it, of how you're able to actually pinpoint things that are there, that can be validated, you know, by vets. I mean, like our dogs for sure.
Yes.
And even if it's something more energetic than it is like physically manifested, there's I think I know for us, it gave us so much more, just peace and understanding of our pugs and the way their bodies are and like, oh, okay, there's some challenges. And so they just need some extra love. They need some extra support. We need to be very, intentional about the food that we give them and all of that. And I've seen a drastic change in health as a result.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And like I said, whether it's energetic health and medical manifestations or it's an actual health and medical issue that needs to be seen by a vet, it's both can be acknowledged and both we can find a way to work around that or work with that and get more answers and more clarity for sure. But I also was very lucky because I had parents who did not shut me off. They didn't say, you're strange because of that. They just allowed me to be who I was. They allowed me to be a feeler. And to be honest, probably being bullied helped that because you know what? It put me in a vulnerable position where I was the expressor. I was the sensitive one in the family. I would cry if my brother walked out the back door because I was so sad he was leaving for college. You know, so you have all these different experiences as a child and it's who you are. Yeah. And so I would say if you're not sure who you are now, go back to childhood because I think there's a lot of answers and clarity there. I think just deep down, you know, being vulnerable and being bullied, it does open a certain expansive piece to you because you wonder why it happens. You might be releasing certain emotions tied to that. And it opens the doorway for information telepathically and intuitively and psychically to come to you by being vulnerable and by being open and feeling whatever feels are coming up. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you touched upon something that I think is so important is supportive parents.
Yes.
You know, because I feel the same way. My parents were so loving and supportive of my whole journey. And my mom's actually the one that found me the healer that put me on my spiritual path. And you know, if you're a parent listening, that's the greatest gift that you can give your children, especially if you notice and recognize that they're sensitive, of to not shut down their sensitivity, but to actually like open the door to it.
Right.
Is my internet wigging out a little bit? It was bound to happen with our energy. I'm just going to keep talking, but, okay, we just fixed the glitch. But you know, just to see that really as a strength and as an asset and as something that they, it's a gift that's here to serve them and what they're here to do. So the more that you can like honor that and foster that, the stronger and more empowered they'll feel in using it, and be brave enough to use it so that they can do the work that they came here to do. Because I can't imagine not having that support in my life. It would be a much harder journey. And I know some people who will be listening to this will say, like, I didn't have supportive parents, and I didn't have that. And I wasn't, because of that, I didn't and haven't stepped into my gift yet. But you can find support now. Like, you can create community. You can find that. There's no perfect parenting, and our journeys are not going to be smooth sailing. Like, there's these challenges and obstacles for a reason that shape us and serve us. As you said, like, being bullied, like, really helped you amplify your gift and your compassion and your empathy. For me, like, my darkness and my moments of like physically harming myself, like, helped me to understand that the pain can be that deep for other people. And really being in the dark, like, helped me to really want to help lift people into the light. So there's a purpose and a gift to everything, but find your community. Like, find the people that can hold you and support you and say, hey girl, like, yeah, the energy's funky because Scorpios and Libra and who knows?
The moon made me do it.
I'm like, something's happening astrologically. I think, I don't know. There's a moon happening. Or just to be seen. Just to be seen and to feel safe.
Like you said too, it's people can shapeshift too in a different way, but your parent or your leader or your influence or your mentor may come in a form that you don't recognize or that you might not expect.
It may be an animal.
It could be an animal, 100%. One of my closest, nearest, and dearest, my friend Jean, she stepped into me as a very maternal figure, and some horses have too. They just sometimes know what you need when you need it. And I would also suggest, start to recognize and feel how you feel around certain types of people.
Oh yeah.
You're not supposed to feel drained being around people. You should want to feel uplifted and light, and you should feel that unconditional feeling. And so it would make me really curious to express to people to explore that also. And if you feel certain ways, maybe start eliminating, things that just don't feel right for your frequency anymore. And if you're raising up to that high coherence space, stay there. Don't be scared of it. Stay there and allow others to rise up with you and meet you there. Or start mingling with people in that high coherence level and that energetic frequency that feels really good, because it really does exist. Right. Everyone says don't settle. I say don't settle with things like energy. Don't settle for things that bring you down and make you feel like you're not worth it or you're not good enough. As you are. You just have to find people on the same path as you. And for me, you are one of those people. You have been tremendously inspirational for me, and you've been such a love and so helpful with everything. And everybody needs that. Everybody needs that. And so it just becomes a journey of seeking for the light, as we have, again, the beams of light coming through the window, but searching for that light. And guess what? It does exist in other people. So find people on the same path as you, the same journey as you, and receive that. Allow those people to step in and step up for you. It's life-changing. It's incredible.
Absolutely. And I amen to all of that. And I send my love right back to you for just the many gifts that you've given me and opening my heart even more. And it's also just to circle back to our original conversation. Like, there are going to be people that don't resonate with you and what you do, and they don't like it, and they have a problem with it.
They're everywhere.
Sometimes and they're everywhere.
More of them than ever.
And so, like, on one level, we just say, okay, like, that's where they are. I don't need to change them. I don't need to change myself to conform and fit in and make them comfortable. I just need to continue showing up and knowing that when we are in our light, guess what? We're illuminating darkness everywhere we go. Some people are triggered by that because they're not ready for that illumination. They don't want their dark parts seen. They're not owning them themselves. So it's just like, that's okay. Like they're going to filter
Yes.
out and they're going to move, or they're going to have a reaction and a response. And our
Yes.
job is simply to just continue shining.
Yeah. And I think low coherence can feel really negative to people. Like that
Yeah.
darkness, like you were describing,
Yeah.
internally can feel really awful. But sometimes we have to sit there. Sometimes we
Yeah.
have to explore that. And so it's okay if you're surrounded by, negative energy. It is important to your growth to actually sit with that. And so
Yeah.
sometimes you might notice, wow, yeah, I do have a lot of this in my life. And that's
Right.
okay. It's
Yeah.
perfectly perfect right where you are, because it's going to call you when you experience something higher, a higher vibration and a higher frequency. When you feel that, you're going to want more of that. You're going to want to stay up there and stay lifted more often and keep your angel wings, so to speak. So
Yeah.
be comfortable exploring that darkness,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of wisdom there too.
Oh yeah. There's so much richness there.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're such
could,
a light. I just want to hug you and
I want to
squeeze
hug you. Oh, it's so magical. But
Yeah.
this is what it is. It's like when we show up and we're vulnerable and we're honest and we're raw and we're real. These are the kind of connections we get to have as a result of that.
Yes.
So I just thank you for being such a light in my life and a light in the world, and for continuing even on days when it feels rough and it feels hard and you just kind of want to close up in a little cabin far away in the woods just with your animal friends and no one else. I just thank you for continuing to show up in service of animals, and for us to really learn their wisdom and receive their wisdom.
Thank you. It really is. It's such a pleasure. It really is.
Yeah. And if you guys want a life-changing experience, contact Meg. I'll have your info below. Really just an incredible, and I've talked to so many friends of mine who have now received readings with you, and the life-changing emotional healing that's happened as a result of that. I can attest to it personally.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that was really, we have this awesome connection where your brother is best friends with my husband.
Yeah. It's a bonus. Yay.
It's a bonus, which is how we connected. And then, and I wanted a reading for my pugs and for my parents. And then I saw you in your gift and I was like, dang, gotta know her.
We kind of are like instant sisters, and I don't have a sister, so
yeah, neither do I. So been collecting my sisters.
I love it.
But yeah, so it was really, I got to see you in your gift first, and then receive the beautiful spirit that you are over this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's really incredible.
Thank you so much. It's so awesome. Yeah, I encourage anyone that's ready and open for the experience. If you allow your animal to receive that gift, it's you in turn are receiving the same gift, if not doubly.
Yeah.
And it will change your life. It really will.
It really will. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful day from Meg and Meg. we send our Meg love out into the world to all of you. All right.
So much love and light. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.